What do you mean you don't like me anymore?
That's not true. And I don't even call you the ball and chain or any of those things that anybody ever says about their spouses. What's up, guys? That's my wife. My name's Jeff. This is My Wife Still Likes Me. And today we want to challenge you to change the narrative of your message. But first, we have to understand what that means.
But first, we break for the cards.
These are short.
All right. So the question today is, who was your arch nemesis as a kid?
Mr. Jetson. But that's only funny if you watch the episode.
Oh my gosh, you're such a nerd.
My arch nemesis as a kid. I don't remember his name, but there was one kid. I don't know if I can say this, but I got permission to knock that kid's lights out from my parents because he was that kid. I don't even remember his name. He kept doing this one, like, poking me kind of thing. And I was frustrated, and I was doing the walk away and tell teachers and told my parents, and I got permission from both of them to next time he does it, knock him out. I don't remember the kid's name.
Wow, that's funny.
While you think about it, before we get into you shouldn't give your parents permission to do that. Like, we did all the things you're supposed to do,
know.
and it didn't work.
I was going to say, your parents are not people to do that just lightly.
Yeah.
There would have been a process because your parents are very much trying to make peace with everything. And yeah. Anyways, so she's going to kick my butt when she hears this, if she hears this. But my younger sister and I were 5 years apart. And so, I'm the oldest of four, but number two in line, for the longest time, we just oil and water. And, we have a great relationship now. Don't get me wrong. But when I was growing up, it was, I was 8 when she was 3. And so it wasn't until I got into high school and she was a little bit older that we really started getting along and, hanging out. And so, like, I'd take her to the mall with me and have her hang out with my friends and stuff like that. But when we were younger, like, I'm still mad about this. And to be fair, this is partially my fault, but I convinced her to trade me her brand new Hollywood Barbie that I really had wanted for my birthday, but she got for her birthday or some reason. And so I made a bad trade, and I knew it was a bad trade. But I really wanted that Barbie doll. Well, she made the trade and then tried to trade back. And my mom's like, no trade backs. So then what does she do? She found the Barbie, took a chunk of her hair and cut it off. And this Barbie had long, beautiful hair, which is why I wanted it, and just ruined it for me. And from then on, she would pull the heads of my Barbies off. And you've never had to do this before, but when there's a piece inside of a Barbie doll's head that helps it to pivot properly, you can't get it back on that piece. Once it's done, it's done. And so in order to put the Barbie doll's head back on, it loses the neck. And so you have these weird looking Barbie dolls. And so she purposely ruined a bunch of Barbies. And yeah, we were arch nemesis growing up, but I'm glad that, like, now I know 100%, like, if I needed anything, and she knows that she can call me the same token, like, we are very close now.
We made it through all of these shows without my phone ringing one time. And
How did we do that?
I don't know. All right. So, I was at lunch probably a year ago, and I told a guy we had been married 16. You and I had been married 16 years. And his response was, my sympathies, friend. Like the prisoners said to Captain Jack when he was in the prison cell, and the cannon that exploded the building freed everybody else. Mm-hmm. That got me thinking over these last few months. We've been working on this one for a little bit. Do we all have some thought like that about our marriages? Because I'm excited. Like, I had to make sure I understood the definition of sympathy, and we'll get to it in a second. But I'm excited that we've been married for 16 years. We haven't always done it right, but I think we're doing fantastic, and I think many others are doing fantastic. And I think we're doing so much better at life and parenting and being present now than we were 16 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, guys hear that all the time. I don't know if ladies say that. Like,
Oh, yeah. No, it's the same.
And I'm just like, do we really think that? And I'm like, that's why your marriage sucks, because you think your wife's a ball and chain. Like,
yeah. And how much of that are you projecting?
Yeah. So sympathy is feeling pity or sorrow for someone's misfortune. I'm like, I don't think it's unfortunate that I am married for a long time. And so now if that guy thinks that my misfortune is being married for 16 years, makes me ask so many other questions about their life and their past. But I asked around, and there's a lot of guys who think that their misfortune is their current relationship. We're going to toe the line of therapy, and I understand that. So understand we are not mental health professionals, but there's a deeper issue that needs to be addressed. And we should find professionals if this is where you find yourself. But the narrative if the narrative of your marriage is misfortune and pity, fix it.
Right.
Through professional help or whatever. But I'm just like, if the adjectives you use to describe your spouse when you're sitting around the table with your friends is nagging, ball and chain, or the vault is locked, I'm sorry. But there has to be something better.
Right.
I don't know the right word for that. And I think it's changing the narrative. It's just like, I hear this all the time now. And now I hear it like all the time. And I'm like, if the point of view that you have on your spouse is not positive, why? And genuinely try to figure out how to fix it. Anyway, thoughts?
Yes. Ditto. No, because I mean, I have talked to many people, and you can tell a lot about a person how they talk about their significant other. And honestly, like when I hear someone, and I tend to introduce myself as, hi, my name's Kim. I have been married to my husband for 16 years. And because of this show, we've joked about this for a really long time, but now it's become a conscious thing and I still like him.
Yeah. And
introducing myself that way has been, it's probably Amazon.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I should open the window just to show them there really is an Amazon truck outside. You probably didn't hear it. We heard a clunk and didn't understand what it was. It's like, it's Amazon. I'm sure
I said
enough.
It's probably.
No, it is. There's no probably.
I know, but I didn't look. So, anywho, I am setting that precedence of, I want to have a conscious, spreading that little bit of light everywhere. But it actually has shifted how people talk to me, because before I started saying, and I still like him, people would be like, oh, my sympathies, or, oh man, that long with the same person. And It's always been that negative connotation. But I have noticed more recently, because I say that, I'm hearing more positive. And so I'm glad that we are talking about changing that narrative, because negative breeds negative.
Yeah. So I have two thoughts that really changed the thought process about this. Not that we've ever had negative opinions of our marriage. Like, I genuinely think we all can always do better.
Oh yeah.
I've not been.
But there's
seasons.
You
are not the misfortune of my life. We'll put it that way.
Right.
Maya Bialik, of all people, she is wonderful and a nerd in her own right. Amy Farrah Fowler, if you don't know who that is.
Or Blossom for our older
Oh
friends.
my goodness. She said when talking about parenting that she had never been a parent in this moment with this kid in this situation. Now she's still the boss, and her kids need to follow directions, but they're going to figure it out together. Mm-hmm. And then Gary Vee says this about everybody. Something close to 8 billion people in the world, and every single one of them needs to wake up tomorrow and redefine what success looks like. Mm-hmm. Both of those thoughts in this context are just like hit super hard. I don't know what is happening over there. It's impressive. Anyway, taking those thoughts and bringing them into this context, we have usually, because second chances and moving on and things happen, but we have usually never been married to this person in this situation. We might not get it right, but we need to do it together. Mm-hmm. And then redefining what success is for your marriage. What do you want it to look like or to be like? And where or how do you want your family to be? Because it is up to you. If you're going to sit on the couch and do nothing and think that your misfortune is your spouse without being a therapist, it's probably because you're sitting on the couch doing nothing.
You might be the problem.
Anyway, it hurts that there are, so many people who are married and they feel like their misfortune is their relationship. Mm-hmm. There's always context. I understand they're the outliers, but if that's how you view your relationship and there's not anything wrong with it, figure out what your issue is and redefine what success looks like as a marriage.
Yeah.
John Acuff has a podcast called All It Takes Is a Goal, and he wrote a book called Soundtracks, and how changing the repetitive thoughts about how we view ourselves can improve our attitude and our lifestyle. So in our house, we ask and say things like, is it true? Is it kind? And is it helpful right now?
With our kids.
With our kids. I generally don't have to ask you those questions.
That's why I wanted to make sure.
With our children.
Yeah.
But we do those things so that our kids are constantly thinking about how they respond and how they act to things, because kids, just like they need to be justified. So it really doesn't matter what comes out as long as they're justified. And then we add into that, you are kind, you are loved, you are enough, and you know how to love other people. So that's the repetitive thing. And I'm trying to think, what repetitive soundtracks can we bring into our marriages that help that? Because if you just come home at the end of the day, or you get done working in your home office at the end of the day, you grab a six-pack and you go into the garage because you don't want to be around your family, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm doing all the talking, so share some thoughts.
Ditto. No, you're on a roll. Absolutely, because really, there is some words like, oh gosh, what is it called? I'm trying to think back to some of my previous thoughts, but realistically, if you are having that negative narrative over and over and over and over and over, think about, I recently bought a car. Okay. I have a Mini Cooper, love the thing. And I didn't really see a lot of these things until I bought the car.
Right.
And now I see them everywhere. So apply that same concept to being negative. You're going to see that, oh my gosh, my spouse did not put the plate in the right side of the sink. They just set it next to the sink. So that's a negative. And so, oh my gosh, my spouse is chewing the wrong way, or they wore the wrong shirt, or they did fill in the blank wrong today. It is going to perpetuate, get bigger and bigger and bigger until all you see is negativity, and you miss, you know what? My spouse laid out my clothes for me last night. My spouse made me coffee this morning.
That's a little weird, but yeah.
But it's what your narrative is. It's what you're looking for. And so, if you're looking for negative, you're going to find negative. But if you're appreciating your spouse, if you're seeing the positive, you're not perfect, and everybody knows I'm not perfect, but we see beyond those imperfections. And I know that this relationship is solid. So anyways.
This is cliche, and we know it's sappy, but you and I have had, in some form or capacity, always and forever,
Yes.
somewhere in one of our rooms. Context, our room is our space. Generally speaking, our kids have the entire rest of the house. That's our space. So that's where our positive reinforcement for us is, like the turtle thing in our bathroom. I don't know how to describe it. The one with all the lines on it to be like a sea turtle.
Yes, I know.
Yes, that thing.
I made a sign and it's like, be like a sea turtle. So anyways.
Anyway, we mean those things. Like, they're cliche. And like, yes, arguably there are plenty of people all over the country that have the farmhouse style love sign that's 5 feet tall in their house. And they have live, laugh, love all over their house, but they don't do it.
Yes.
They don't mean it. That's frustrating. Like, don't have all of this meaningful stuff all over your house and then not do anything about it. But we have those things because we're in this together. Now, you and I have established boundaries of how we want the logistics of our family to work, right? The one extracurricular activity per semester for our kids, because I'm not going to drive all over the central Arizona trying to do soccer.
Well, and I like seeing you.
Yeah. Business stuff. We talk about our business ventures and how we want stuff like that. We schedule adult time. We plan our trips together around our work schedules, and we genuinely enjoy being together. Like, I love you, and I still like you, but we choose to make it work and be present in the moment. And we have clients and friends and people just randomly come and ask us questions about how we make it work. And I think it's the narrative. Like,
It is.
we talk and it's communication and there's practical things we can do, but our narrative is we enjoy being married. You're not a ball and chain.
No.
You're not frustrating. But I don't describe you as my misfortune. And I think that's become a habit of culture that, and maybe why marriage has such a negative connotation throughout the rest of the country now, because the narrative is, it's, why do I need that? It's just misery and pain and frustration.
Yep.
And so I asked the question, what does the narrative look like for your marriage? And if it's not a positive one, how do you want it to be different? Include your spouse in the discussion. But pity, sorrow, and misfortune do not have to be the narrative of the marriage.
Yeah.
Love, joy, peace, fun.
Yeah. But I think too, like, one thing to point out is sometimes you're gonna have to undo what you saw as a kid. And I think it's worth calling out, like, if your parents didn't seem like they had a good, happy relationship that you want to work towards, then why are you repeating their mistakes?
Sure. And that's all. I mean, we all need to go see a therapist. Just put it that way.
But I think it's worth pointing out is, like, if your parents didn't have the type of marriage that you want and strive for, where they were equal partners, like, obviously, like, if you had a stay-at-home mom, yeah, it's going to look a little different than maybe if you and your spouse are both working. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, did your, mom and dad come together and have a partnership? Did they have healthy relationships? Did they have healthy boundaries? Or was it very one-sided? And not pointing out any particular generation or anyone in particular that I know, but, like, I have seen in my time where it's usually the woman is putting everything into the relationship and the man is just existing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put that on anybody, but I have seen that. And then, to be fair, on the other side of things, I have seen the man go to work, come home, do all the housework, and the woman is doing nothing. And that's just as bad as the other. So, when we talk about a relationship, I love the phrase that a lot of people use now is partnership. Like, you are my life partner. And that has a lot of weight with me. Like, when I make decisions, I want you involved in that. You are my best friend. Now, granted, we both have friends outside of this relationship, and that's just as healthy. But we talked about this in a previous show of when I have something that I need to celebrate, you're the first person I want to tell because you are my partner. Like, we win together and we grow together. And, you know, if I mess up, I know that I can come to you and you're going to help me fix it. It's, yeah, you may judge me if I really mess up, but in the most loving way. But no,
I know.
in reality, yes, it could happen, but I know that you've got my back. Even if I done messed up, Ron, like I know, I love that one. I know that I can count on you, and you know that you can count on me, even when things go south. And I mean, I remember there was times where something happened. There were so many times when we were first married that one of us would screw up and, you know, head hung, having to go to the other and admit that I made a mistake or you made a mistake, and knowing that at the end of the day, it would be fine. We would figure out the game plan. We're still here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we didn't get to eat like normal food and we survived off hot dogs and macaroni and cheese, but rough days. But we survived, and we survived because we were together. And that's the kind of narrative that you want to have, is your spouse is supposed to be the person that's got your back, not the person stabbing you in the back.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. So change it. Like if the words you use to describe your marriage are pity and misfortune and distrust and all of that stuff, sit down and figure out how to change it. Like the marriage is awesome.
It is.
I mean, that's not to say like if you don't want to be married, don't be married. But yeah,
I think a practical first step is, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say it at all. You know, if you are in that spot where you truly feel like your marriage is miserable, the first step would be stop saying it out loud to other people. Mm-hmm. And
then go home and talk about why you think your marriage is miserable.
Yeah.
Get outside help if necessary and figure it out.
But also, like, start looking for the good instead of the bad. And starting small, like, what are 3 things that you appreciate about your spouse? And, you know, if you're so far down that rabbit hole that you can't find 3 things, pick one thing until you can start doing that on a daily basis. What is one thing that you appreciate about your spouse, that you like about your spouse? And that will help change your narrative.
Go on date day.
Oh, yeah.
Any other thoughts? Tell them you do still like me, since we went through
Oh, I do. I still like you. Always. I think it's also important to call out, like, if you are getting to the point where you feel like your spouse is a burden, why?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like your spouse is a burden? Is it because they are paying more attention to the kids than you? Have you talked about it? Or is there a situation where you do not feel valued anymore? Have you talked about it? Because you and I, practical example, there was a point where we had the 3 kids. They were young. I went to work at 5 a.m. and I got off at 1:30. And so I would go get the kids. Sometimes I would grab something quick from the store on my way to the babysitter, because by our babysitter's house, there was a grocery store. So it was just real quick, grab a loaf of bread or, you know, something quick. But I would go get the kids, and I made sure that she got paid each week. And, you know, I would go take the children home, and they were 2 and 4 at the time, 3 and 5, somewhere, young kids. And I came home, I would get them unloaded, get them situated for the day, get dinner going, prep lunches for myself and sometimes for the kids, depending on what was going on, repack the diaper bag, prep everything for the next day, get all of the housework done by myself. And then you came home, and sometimes you would work overtime, and you had a very physically demanding job in the heat. So sometimes when you came home, you were just exhausted, and you were frustrated with me for a while of why extra things weren't happening. And so that's when we had this conversation of my mental load is so much that I cannot think about anything else by time you get home. And it's not that it was your fault. I'm not blaming you for any of that. But when you came home, you just wanted to sit down for 5 minutes and have a quick moment to cool down and not think about anything. But by time you got home, I didn't get that space either. And so I was getting resentful of that. So we had to have that talk of, why are you frustrated with me? And why was I frustrated with you? And so that shifted our marriage in the best way. So you got home, you took the kids for 5 minutes so that I could go to the bathroom by myself. And as silly as it sounded, it was that 5 minutes where I could be me again. And I wasn't mom mode. I wasn't, housekeeper, cook, any of that. It was just me. And we started changing the narrative of that, of, you know what? I am working full time and you're working full time. Our jobs are very different demands, but we still have the same mental load. So you started taking some of the stuff off my plate, and that changed our relationship for the better. So, I don't want people listening to this to be like, oh, they've never gone through it. We have.
Oh, yeah.
We have. And, if you find yourself in that spot, like, this is your glimmer of hope. It can get better, but you have to have that open conversation and be understanding of your spouse, because, I know as a woman, there's sometimes where I don't feel like I can say it out loud without sounding crazy. And I know you've been very understanding, so it's not on you at all. But there's been points where I'm like, I don't want him to think any less of me because I'm struggling with this. And every time I've said it to you, you're like, dummy, why didn't you tell me earlier? I'm here to help you.
And that's probably, and this is where the trying not to get too far past the line of therapy, but that's, guys don't think that way.
They don't. And that's why I say understand your spouse.
Because, like, most of the time when a guy hears something like that from their spouse, we're like, shut up. I'm not the problem. I'm going to go back to working on the car. But then they don't fix the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's a lot of things like, depending on the day, like there are some days where I'm like, I suck at being a wife because of fill in the blank. And when I have talked to you about it, you're like, hello, you're dealing with school, you're dealing with work. The children have been on a tear this week. So why do you feel like you're being inadequate? And that's okay. That's what you are there to help me. I'm here to help you. And I guarantee that if you're feeling resentful of your spouse, they are probably feeling the same way for something that you've done. So talk to your spouse.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done. Pushing the mic away.
Okay. Now that we have borderline towed the line.
Yes.
We are not mental health professionals.
No.
If something in our conversation today has sparked an issue or a thought or something, go find a therapist. Go seek a marriage counselor, a marriage coach, somebody. We are not it.
No.
But there are plenty of well-qualified professionals that can help you change the narrative of your marriage. Check us out on the socials. My Wife Still Likes Me, mywifestilllikesme.com. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell, and we will see you next time. Later.
Bye.